Overall, it's been a very positive experience. What we have found is that the youth of the community actually bring a different perspective. When we talk about our boards, we actually talk about our youth board and our adult board to segregate them out, because the youth look at things differently. They have a different energy. They have just different experiences. They're at a different point in their life than what our adult board is. So their viewpoints, what they do, what they say, we take all that into consideration.
Actually, the students did most of the ideas. We helped them with it and tried to give them advice not to change their ideas, because you don't want to discourage someone. So you built on what they had already decided upon. And I know our Youth Service Bureau lets them do that also. They will take a back seat, and unless they've really gone too far one way or another, they let them really handle it. They really are in charge of granting their own money.
My experience started as we first began talking about having a youth philanthropy committee as part of the Putnam County Community Foundation. That wasn't in existence, and decided that it would probably be a really important piece to be putting into place so that we could build a new generation of philanthropists.
Well, I've worked with youth philanthropy committees in the past, and this is the first time that I've worked with a group who was building an endowment. And since my time with the Community Foundation, we've been looking for a way to engage young people in the type of work that we do: endowment building, fund development, charitable giving. And this opportunity came about for a matching grant, and it just came at a perfect time, because we had been talking about starting an endowment and how to engage our youth philanthropy committee, which had just been formed a few months before.
I have found it's been a great experience. By and large, young people, like anybody else in terms of philanthropy, they must be asked. And what we have done over the years, at least my experience has been, to put young people in a position where they can be asked that question.
Young people just bring they bring a new perspective to fundraising and to philanthropy. They know how to reach different areas of the community that we don't know how to reach. They have their own social networks, their own way to communicate. And I think that's really important to understand and to appreciate. They're willing to take risks and break the mold of philanthropy that currently exists, and it's exciting to see.
So first we had to be introduced to what an endowment exactly was, and then we applied for a matching grant. So we've been working on fundraising for that for about a year now, and we're almost done raising money for an endowment. So it's just been really educational, because I didn't know how the process worked at all.
In terms of fundraising, it's always been really difficult. I'm part of something called the Teen Leaders Club with the YMCA, and so everything we do, we have to fundraise for it. We can't do anything without fundraising.
The kids have a inherent desire to achieve whatever goal we set before them. They want to learn, they want to excel, they're very dedicated and committed, but they bring a different viewpoint.
I could sit there and see what they were working on, what they were doing, had nothing to do with themselves. They were totally selfless. They weren't competing like who can do the most or who can do. It's like, if we can do this together, we should make our goal.
Once they got over the fact that we were actually empowering them to make decisions and them to come up with a structure with which to work, I think they began to think very seriously about how they could make something that would be workable from their perspective. And the adults were really, again, there just to be supportive, to give some of their expertise based on their own personal experience with the foundation. But I think the students were excited about the ability to actually affect some change in their environment.
One thing that I think is very creative and very telling for us at the Community Foundation is that they came up with grant-making priorities that we didn't have for ourselves in the unrestricted fund, so they are really filling a need that we hadn't filled before.
These kids have fresh ideas, and they know the problems, and they are able to talk about what the solutions are. And oftentimes we have spoken for young people and not engaged them in thinking about what they can do. They have creative ways of raising money. They know what things will excite young people to give.
When talking with them, you see a real eagerness to learn about fundraising, about different projects that are in the community. So they take on a lot of information, they learn about their community, and then they're able to go out and express the passion that they have for certain projects that they care for.
By bringing together the youth from all over the county and the different programs, you learn a lot about the needs in the community, and you learn about the endowment process and grant making, and you just get a whole new education about something that you wouldn't have otherwise maybe had the chance to.
It's like anything else. When you look at when our adult board goes out and the work that they do in the community, the same as the Youth Foundation, the return on the investment isn't always immediate, but there is a return on the investment. Now, I can't put a dollar amount on it necessarily, but when our first 2 years of the Youth Foundation, when I see them in our community now in leadership roles in nonprofit organizations, that tells me that we've made a difference.
And I think when adults see them out working just to raise the funds to give away, gives them a good example. I mean, we always talk about adults giving a good example to the youth. It was a little turned around here.
We said, look at the issues that you see that affect you as a young person in your everyday life, and what are the kinds of things that we can help make better, that you can help make better, that you can affect some change with. So I think the perspective they bring is young, fresh eyes with an enthusiasm to make the world, whatever that world is that we're talking about, a better place to be.
The philosophy that we have at the Community Foundation in starting this program was that we believe the young people who participate in building the community won't tear the community down now or later. And so giving them the vehicle to do so through the Youth Philanthropy Program, whether they're serving on the board as grant makers or decision makers and fundraisers, or they're serving as a recipient of a grant where they're raising money, they are helping to improve the community. And they know what it takes to build a community up. So we believe that in the future, they're not going to be the types of citizens that will just sit back or even tear down a community. They're going to be there to help support and build for the future. So that's very important for us.
One of the greatest values as well is their willingness to stick with it. I mean, it's kind of a lifelong thing. They feel engaged, and then they see the necessity of making sure other young people are included. So they become torchbearers for young people and for the young voice.
They bring a lot of unity to the community when they work with the foundation and when they work in the community. We are a community foundation, so if we don't listen to the youth in the community, then we're only listening to part of the population, and we're only serving part of the population. So they bring that oneness and help unite the community as a whole, and I think that's one of the big values that they bring.
There are a few opportunities for youth to be really involved in something, and I think once they find something they can be a part of, either by giving time or their money or their talents, then they feel like they're really making a difference.
Every teenager will get engaged in what you're doing if you make it sound like it affects them or people they love, or make it sound meaningful.
I think one of the greatest gifts that we can give our kids is to show them how they can take their passions and what they are really interested in doing and figure out a way to use that and their skills and their talents to give back to their community.
They are our future. And if they're not interested in taking care of other people who are not as fortunate as they are, it's going to be a tough world to live in.
I really, really feel that in order to build another generation of philanthropists, we've got to start early.
It really is a lot of fun to have a youth philanthropy program at the Community Foundation. And what I would say to executive directors or board members thinking whether or not they should have a youth philanthropy program is it's definitely worth it. You are going to spend some time with the youth teaching and learning as well, but it's going to be worth it in the end, and it really is exciting and energizing for not just yourself as a staff person, but the community at large. It's something that they really look to, and I think that as we become more well known in the community and fund more projects, it's just going to get more and more exciting as we go.
The more we expose kids like this to the opportunity to serve, the better off we're going to be. And it's a lifelong experience for these kids.
It's astounding. I mean, you have to experience it yourself, and it's a benefit for both parties, I think, too. The kids learn skills. They learn how to speak in front of people, or how to express themselves, how to create and organize projects. And the community foundations, I mean, we get the funds that they bring in, we get to work with them, and we learn things from them as well. It's all learning. I think both sides learn something, and you learn something different with each team that comes in, and I think that's neat.